Hey guys, Jeff here, and just wanted to come to you guys and talk to you about uh, different ways that we can share our faith or share the gospel with other people. And and I'll mention a fact up front that you need to know right away going into this is that it takes the average person 7 times to hear the gospel before they make a decision to follow Christ and give their life to Christ and let Him take over. So sometimes we think that if we share our faith with someone or share our testimony or whatever, the gospel, that they're going to become a Christian right there. But again, like I said, on average, it takes people 7 times. And I say it that way. It takes people 7 times. When I think about myself, and again, I didn't grow up in the church, which in some ways I'm glad, especially for things like this, because it's a really clear personal testimony that I have. But people that don't grow up in church, of course, there's this processing time. It's the same truth in marketing. A person has to see a message or a invitation 7 times before they act on that and show up, or a marketing piece of any kind. Okay, and the same thing with the gospel. So you don't know what step they're on. You don't know which person. Are you one of the 7 times that you're sharing this that they're actually going to then become a Christian? Maybe. Right? But a lot of times, no. So sometimes I can tell with somebody new, especially, sometimes they just say, oh, you go to church, and then they'll ask me a question about where, and then I might just share my testimony and I leave it at that. Okay? Because again, I understand that. Now, keep in mind, if I feel like they're interested in more, then of course I'm happy to share more. But sometimes, you can tell people are like, whoa, wait a minute. It's just a lot for them to take in just to hear a testimony like yours and mine, okay? But like mine is, hey, before I gave my life to Christ, I was drunk. I was running from God. I was also a rebel against my parents. I was getting in trouble from the police several times. I was spiraling downward fast at age 18. But I did hear a preacher a few times on TV. Also, I had a tract that I'd read. And so I knew the gospel. I understood that I needed to give my life to Christ. I just didn't want to, but at least I had the information. So one night when I was completely drunk, God spoke to me, and I immediately sobered, and He said, give your life to me tonight. And I said, okay. And then the minute I did that, I felt this brand new, I can't explain it, desire to go obey God now, because I said I'd give Him my life, and go find my dad and make things right with him, because we were really not good at all, and it was my fault. So I made things right with Dad, and then God's like, you need to go apologize to some other people, because I was really, really sorrowful. Not sorry that I got caught. That's not godly sorrow. That's not biblical repentance. But biblical repentance is, I'm sorry for what I did, not only because I got caught, but because it hurt these people, and I'm so sorry that I hurt them, and now I'm going to make it right with them. A lot of stories in the Bible about biblical repentance and apologizing to people is, you'll see that they don't ever want that person to have that pain again. It's very selfless. Okay, they're selfish when people are apologizing because they want to get something, and now this is in the way of them getting what they want. That's not what we're talking about. But I had true sorrow for my sins and how it hurt my dad and other people. Made that right. And now I may not share it that long. It might take just a minute or two to share, but then at least I stop and look at the person. And usually they're like, whoa, really? If they keep asking, I share more. But if they don't, then at least, I've shared that. And you go from there. It's planting seeds, but again, I think just to let you off the hook, that a great way to share our faith is simply the testimony, the ad, which is, my life was messed up before. You've probably seen the ad on television of the dishwashing liquid, and, it was terrible, did a terrible job. The dishes are still dirty, and boy, are they upset. And then they got this stuff, right? Did the next load of dishes, and dishes are spotless, and now their lives are great. That's a great testimony model right there. What was my life like before? Then how did I make the decision? And now what is my life? How have I changed since? Right? That's it. That's all you got to do with Jesus. Okay? Now, if you don't have a testimony, go get saved, give your life to Christ, and then you can start sharing that. I'm not joking. If you've never had a change, why do people want to hear it? And if you never made a decision to make a change, and some people think they don't need to. Well, I'm okay. I don't need that. Well, no, you do. So hopefully that's not where you're at. You know, sometimes other Christians that go to church are some people that need to be born again. They need to hear the gospel themselves. You know, they've been taught that they just grow up in church, or it's just osmosis. I've had pastors tell me that. Oh, that's really shocking, isn't it? But there you go. So go have fun, share your testimony, and see what God will do. All right. Thank you so much. Until next time, God bless you.